Yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee held a hearing down on the American-Mexican border in Yuma, Arizona. Let's take a quick look at what Congressman Andy Biggs tweeted out. There's a picture of them actually with Border Patrol agents inspecting the border, the barrier that's still there after President Trump built it. But of course, there's serious problems down there. What you won't see in that picture is the ranking member for the Democrats, Jerry Nadler. In fact, you won't see any Democrat in any of those pictures or at the hearing. They chose not to show up. And again, this wasn't like with the January 6th committee where Republicans weren't allowed to show up, where the Speaker of the House only hand selected which Democrats were eligible to be on the committee. No, they were all welcome. They were invited. They just don't think that the border is that big of a deal. They don't think the people of Arizona, the Americans on our side of the border, deserve their attention. The aforementioned Congressman Andy Biggs of the 5th Congressional District in Arizona joins us now. Congressman Biggs, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Larry.
I'm not overstating the case. You were snubbed. And not just you, but the people of Yuma, Arizona were basically told by Jerry Nadler and every Democrat on the Judiciary Committee that they don't matter. Their issues don't matter. Their concerns don't matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Democrats have said for a long time that there's no issue, no problem, no crisis on the border. And they had a perfect opportunity to come to a border community and tell the people there, the head of the hospital, the sheriff, the county supervisor, they could have come down there and made their case that you guys are just, you can't believe your lying eyes. You can't believe the cost and problems and the social problems that are caused by this. They could have made that case. And they said, you know what? No, we're not going to go. We're going to ignore this. And it's to their detriment.
And they could have also called their own witnesses, of course, to make that case for them as well, right?
Yeah, they could have said, we're going to bring in, a local community activist or somebody like that they wanted to say that there's not a problem. But they chose not to.
I think the bottom line here is, from their perspective, there isn't a problem, because actually they have exactly the border that they were hoping for, which is porous and unsecure. I also found remarkable, Jerry Nadler said that this hearing was irrelevant because you, the Republicans, hadn't called any federal employees to come and testify. That you can get those guys here in Washington, D.C. anytime you want. The whole reason for going down there is you wanted to call people who were experiencing the problems with the border locally. It's an outrageous excuse.
No, that's exactly right. The reason you have field hearings is because you can't bring all these people who are impacted or affected by a policy. And, maybe it's not the border this time, maybe it's something else, but you can't bring all those people in to testify. So you mean to tell me that if we would have had a hearing in Washington, D.C., and we would have brought in the head of the hospital, if you would have brought in the sheriff, if you would have brought in the county supervisor, you tell me that they wouldn't have come to that hearing because we didn't bring in Mayorkas this time? That's just ludicrous.
Yeah, it is ludicrous. You mentioned this hospital. This is one part of this hearing that I really want to drill down on. You had the head of a hospital down there right on the border who talked about how they are tens of millions of dollars in debt right now because they must accommodate all the medical needs of these undocumented illegal aliens who have crossed the border. A huge number of them are pregnant women giving birth in that hospital, births to brand new American citizen babies. What's going to happen with this hospital? Because the purpose of this hospital is to treat American citizens on our side of the border. And if they are incapable of doing that, then what about the American citizens who need help?
Well, they get crowded out, actually. So it costs them more than $26 million of uncompensated care for people just showing up. That doesn't include, Larry, the people who come in illegally that the CBP brings over to them and says, okay, we've got somebody who's sick or ill that needs to be cared for. So those all take up beds in a 400-bed hospital that is the only major trauma center for a radius of about 300 miles from San Diego to Phoenix. So you crowd out those local residents. They don't get this. They don't get the care. And it's not unusual. I was just talking to the supervisor before I got on with you again. And I was just saying, well, tell me about this. He says, I get calls all the time from someone saying, we're driving to Phoenix because there's no room in the inn. We're going to have our baby there. We're going to get surgery in Phoenix, because it's not because you don't have the doctors. It's because you don't have the space. they're just crowding out the local community.
Sounds like an America Last policy down there, writ large, right where you need the services of the government at the hospital level. Congressman, are the Democrats going to be having their own hearing down there? Are they going to be doing their own sort of dog and pony show?
I doubt it. The last thing they want is to bring in people who can testify about what's going on. And don't forget, Larry, this was an official congressionally sanctioned field hearing. This wasn't like just a bunch of us going down and getting together and saying, let's do this. This was an official hearing.
Do you believe that your committee learned enough yesterday to move proceedings along for the impeachment of Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas?
I do. And here's why. I think that the people and the reality of seeing what's going on there, and that this is deliberately done. This is a result of deliberate actions that this guy won't change. In fact, he's going to exacerbate when Title 42 goes away. And you compare it to Mayor Pete. So Mayor Pete, people say he should be impeached. Well, Mayor Pete is maladministrating. He is incompetent. He is indifferent. He is insensitive. But you know what? He doesn't have the same kind of malevolent intentions. It's just the fact he doesn't give a rat, And so he should probably be removed for that purpose. But he hasn't necessarily committed a high crime misdemeanor. Mayorkas has. I think it was on full display this over the last couple of days.
Speaking of high crimes, I want to shift gears for a story that we've been tracking here, the great reporting from Gabe Kaminsky over at Washington Examiner about this nefarious group, the Disinformation Governance Board. They created a list of websites, all conservative, by the way, that need to be removed from consideration for advertising, maybe even brought down on the Google algorithms if people are searching for stories. The whole thing is a fraud. It's a left-wing group, the Southern Poverty Law Center, who's determined that if you're conservative, you must be engaged in disinformation. The website I write on, Town Hall, is included on this list. But now we've got a development in this story. It appears that the U.S. State Department, under Anthony Blinken, under Joe Biden, actually participated in this.
Yeah, I saw that report, and this is where the Oversight Committee and then the Special Weaponization Committee needs to get at it. But also, I'm chairman of a committee on government surveillance. I think this falls into that category because and so all of us are looking at this because when you look at it, they're coming up with political motivation to basically go out and wipe out, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to wipe off and wipe out conservative voices in social media.
I want to give the details here. The State Department supported a National Endowment for Democracy grant of $315,000 to this Global Disinformation Index. That is U.S. taxpayer money sponsoring the censorship of conservative voices in this country, in America. That's a smoking gun right there.
Yeah, I agree. But see, here's the thing that makes it so bad. They want more money, and so our colleagues have got to say no, and we've got to pull back and say you're just not getting any more money. Not only that, we need to get a line item from the State Department, because that isn't the only program, Larry. We have found out that the DOJ and actually the FBI and CIA were actually working with social media companies, telling them this group of individuals should have their accounts removed because they don't meet your standards, the private company standards. Why is the federal government telling Twitter, for instance, and I wasn't on that list as far as I know, but let's say they said Andy Biggs shouldn't have an account because we don't think he meets Twitter's standards.
Right.
That's kind of the prototypical definition of authoritarianism and fascism, is it not?
It absolutely is. Congressman Andy Biggs, you are on the two committees where things are happening, the oversight committees you just mentioned, and of course the Judiciary Committee with that field trip down to the border. By the way, real fast, I'm told Democrats think that they can flip Arizona. It's going to be a blue state going forward. It's a hell of a way to get Arizona votes, to just not show up and say everything's fine here on the border.
Yeah.
I think good politicians in your state might be able to make hay with that if they wanted to.
I think so. First thing this governor did was take down barriers at the border. That was the first order of business for her.
It's almost like they want it this way. Congressman Biggs, thanks for joining us. You're watching O'Connor Tonight.